And then he says, I heard Abu Ali al-Daqqaq, one of the great Arifin, say, rahimahullah, الوقت ما أنت به إن كنت بالدنيا فوقتك الدنيا وإن كنت بالعقبة فوقتك العقبة وإن كنت بالسرور فوقتك السرور وإن كنت بالحزن فوقتك الحزن يريد بهذا أن الوقت ما كان الغالب على الإنسان. That's exactly what I was saying earlier. What you give your attention to is your reality. This is exactly what Abu Ali al-Daqqaq said, rahimahullah. The time, the moment, because waqt can be moment, it can be time. Atikum waqtan, like it can. This is the Arabic language. Time is what you are in. If you are in the dunya, your time is the dunya. If you are in the afterlife, your time is the afterlife. If you are in joy, your time is joy. And if you're in grief, your time is grief. And then he says, he means by this that time is essentially what overwhelms the human being. It's your experience. That's what time is. It's human experience. And this is what the clock has taken away from us. The clock is this quantifiable thing. Time is not quantifiable in reality. Time, Allah is time. Allah is, the scholastics, and I think they took it from us. The scholastics called it nunc stans. God is the eternal now. If you look at in Ta'rifat, Imam al-Jurjani says, Ad-Dahar huwa al-an ad-da'im. It is the eternal now. It's the now that stands still. God is time. La tasub ad-dahar fa inna ana ad-dahar biyadi al-layl wa nahar. Do not curse time because I am time. I am time. Some of the ulama interpret it as batinu zaman. It's what the zaman is to the outward, time is to the inward. Anyway, he goes on. It's a stunning thing. He talks about, Imam Shafi'i, he said, I learned two things from the Sufis. Al-waqtu ka-sayfin lam taqta' bihi qata'ak. Time is a sword. If you don't cut with it, in other words, if you're not attentive, it will cut you down. We don't kill time. Time kills us. Whenever you hear somebody say, I'm going to go kill some time, that is a person in complete ghafla. Whenever you hear somebody, Ibn Ata'illah, he said, the fool gets up in the morning and says, what am I going to do today? And the wise man gets up and says, what is God going to do with me today? So he said, and then he said, وَالنَّفْسُ إِن لَمْ تَشْغَلْهَا بِالْخَيْرِ شَغَرَتْكَ بِالشَّرِّ. Your ego is such that if you do not preoccupy it, focus it on the good, it will focus you on the harmful, on the evil, on the bad. Allah. Again, Abu Ali al-Daqqaq said, Al-waqtu mibrad, yashaquka wa la yamhaquka. Time is a file. It just wears you down. Doesn't obliterate you. It wears you down till there's nothing left. And this is why time is so important. He ends this by saying, كل يوم يمر يأخذ بعضي يورث القلب حسرة ثم يمضي. Every day passes, it takes a part of me. And it's يورث القلب حسرة ثم يمضي. It gives remorse to my heart. In other words, for the time I wasted. And then it continues on. It continues on. And then he says, كأهل النار إذ نضجت جلود أعيدت للشقائق لهم جلود. It's like the people of the fire whose skin is reborn. And this is from the Quran. It says every time the skin gets burnt, Allah recreates it. I mean, this is, we know about these proprioceptors. Now, all the skin has these receptors. That's why people that get burnt really deeply, they don't feel it once they've gone through the skin. So the skin, according to the Quran, is recreated. It's recreated so that the receptors experience it. And then he says, لَيْسَ مَنْ مَاتَ فَاسْتَرَاحَ بِمَيْتٍ إِنَّمَا الْمَيْتُ مَيِّتُ الْأَحْيَاءِ. The dead one is not the one who dies and then finds repose. Rather, the dead is the dead among the living. وَالْكَيِّسُ مَنْ كَانَ بِحُكْمِ وَقْتِهِ. The intelligent one is the one who's mindful of his time. He's giving the time its due. إن كان وقته الصحو فقيامه بالشريعة وإن كان وقته المحو فالغالب عليه أحكام الحقيقة. So he's either in the haqiqah or in the sharia, depending on what time it is. So these are very high meanings. And Imam Sidi Ahmed Zarruq, he says that he says people يطالب على حسب الحال. They should be looked at according to their station. So what is asked of the people who are content with being common people, we should all aspire to rise up to be higher than our position. And common people is not the street sweeper. The street sweeper might be a knower of God. So common people in the Western understanding are people that don't have degrees and haven't gone to college and haven't gotten PhDs and things like that. Very often, those are the most common people. They're the most common people. So I wanted to now just talk a little bit about why we celebrate. Really, we should celebrate every day the birth of our Prophet ﷺ. The fact that he came into the world, we should be joyful. And one of the things about Muslims is that wherever you go, it's a hallmark of the Muslims that they loved our Prophet ﷺ. This is a quality that you find all over the world. Even people, bad Muslims, often love the Prophet ﷺ. And I'll give you one example. When I was in England, there was a Kuwaiti man. I shouldn't have said Kuwaiti, but anyway, I said it, so may God veil us all. Anyway, there was a man from the Gulf who was, he was in a bar, and he was drinking, and then the man asked him where he was from. He said, Kuwait. He said, oh, that's Muslim, isn't it? He said, yeah. He said, and then he said something about the Prophet ﷺ. Well, this Kuwaiti man broke his bottle and jabbed this man, right? And obviously you shouldn't do that, and really, I mean, but the impulse is real. The impulse is real. There's people somebody said to me, oh, Muslims are always killing people over religion. I said, well, I was in England at the time. I said, you guys kill people over football matches. I mean, and in fact, there used to be a billboard that said, if your religion's football, worship was Sky. It was like a football channel. Because there are people that's their religion. That's their attention is given to that. They watch all the games. They know all the names. They have all the stats. They know who can bend it like Beckham, right? I mean, it's very interesting. This is people giving their time. And that's all we have is our time. This is what God has given us. This is a great gift that he's given us, participation in being. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was the most mindful of human beings. And that's really what after thinking about mindfulness and thinking about just how so many people in the West are looking at these religions like Buddhism, and they've never considered Islam. It just fascinates me. Because our Prophet ﷺ is so extraordinary. And one of the most extraordinary things about our Prophet ﷺ is his name. Because all over the world right now, here we are in California. وَإِنْ عَبِقَتْ فِي الْغَرْبِ أَنْفَاسُ ذِكْرِهِ وَفِي الشَّرْقِ عَلِيلٌ تَعَافٍ مِنَ الضُّرِّ. Right now, there's people all over the world doing Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad talib al-qulubi wa dawa'iha. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. All over the world, they're praising our Prophet ﷺ. And his name is Muhammad. That's not a name he got later. His mother named him Muhammad. And it was an unknown name to the Arabs. But she was commanded to name him Muhammad. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So just in his name is a proof of who he is, because he is the most praised human being on the planet. And the second, I arguably, is Mary. I mean, Mary, people all over the millions, hundreds of millions of people all over the world praise Mary. But I've never met any Christians that sit there saying, oh God, praise Jesus, bless Jesus. I've never seen that. And I've actually, in Genesis, it says, God will bless the nation that blesses Abraham. I asked an evangelical friend of mine, have you ever blessed Abraham? And he said, I can't think that I have. And I said, we bless him every day, at least 5 times a day. And so by your own book, it says we're a blessed nation. Because we bless Abraham. And of all people, the Prophet in a Sahih hadith said that he was shown all of these prophets, and he said who they look like. He actually told them which tribe they look like. Bani Shanu'ah, Moses looked like the people from Bani Shanu'ah, Jibril looked like Dihya. He said what they look like, and then he said, وَرَأَيْتُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَأَقْرَبُهُ شَبَهًا صَاحِبُكُمْ. The one that looked most like Abraham is your companion. What a beautiful, not your teacher, not your sheikh, not your companion, صاحبكم. It's just, مَنْ تَوَاضَعَ لِلَّهِ رَفَعُهُ اللَّهُ. Our Prophet was the most humble of human beings. He loved people. He cared about people. He was moderate in every single thing that, it's amazing. This is another proof of the Prophet ﷺ, his moderation. He said, my way is the middle way, meaning the moderate way. جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We made you a moderate nation, a people in the middle. Even geographically, the bulk of Muslims are in the middle of the earth. They're not at the extremes. They're in the middle of the earth. Everything about him is moderation. The Prophet ﷺ, they said about him, Anas radhiyallahu anhu said, كَانَ نَبِيُّ رَبَعْةً مِّنَ الْقَوْمِ لَيْسَ بِالْقَصِيرِ وَلَا بِالطَّوِيلِ الْبَائِنِ. He was of middle stature. He was neither too tall, nor was he short. But لَمْ يُطَاوِلْهُ أَحَدٌ. Nobody ever appeared taller than him. But he wasn't tall or short. He was middle. He said, أَزْهَرْ لَيْسَ بِالْآدَمِ وَلَا الْأَبْيَضِ الْأَمْحَقِ. He was of a moderate color, inclining toward a reddish, light brown. He was neither dark, nor was he a pasty white, amhaq, like the Europeans, the northern Europeans. The Italians are closer to that color. It's the most beautiful of colors, azhar alone. I once asked Murabt al-Hajj, when they described the Prophet like the full moon, did they mean the harvest moon on the horizon with that beautiful coloring that it has, or the real brilliant white? And he turned to he turned to some of the students. He said, "Unzuru ila as'ilat al-Rum." Like, look at the questions of the Romans. He said, for him, Rome was Ben al-Asfar, So he said it was like the moon on the horizon. And that's somebody who's an eyewitness. And then he said, Rajad al-Sha'r. He had wavy hair. It was neither straight nor was it kinky. It was middle. Everything about him was middle. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.